Young Junk!
Hey everybody, welcome to Two Drinks with Terry, our new interview show. And on today's episode, we are talking to Chris Nee, who has been a longtime comedian but is a first-time author. Let's get into it.
Oh, that was nice. Good beer.
We are having Pure Adirondack Paradox Brewery craft beer.
Camo beer.
Camo beer. So we were talking earlier before we started about the importance of camo beer.
Yeah.
Tell me.
It's makes you feel more of a man. You know, I'm doing this for America.
That's right.
They put their lives on the line. I put my liver on the line. And that's how I look at it every single time that I drink one of these cans. It's just...
And honestly, I feel the same way. So just remember to support your troops and to support your country by drinking camouflage beer.
Thank you. Yes. Exactly.
So, Chris, I have known for some time. We actually shot Chris's comedy special, which you can see right now. What's the name of it?
It is Take Your Pants Off, Stay a While. It is live on YouTube, Blacked Out Productions. Go check that out. I think it's already at like 3,000 or 4,000 views.
I love it. I love it.
Killing it.
And you've been doing stand-up for how long?
I'm 30. God, I'm showing my age. I'm 32 now. I've been doing it since I was 17, so...
Jeez.
A while.
More than 10.
more than 10, yeah.
More than 10. For
sure.
So thank you so much for being literally the first guest on this show.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
The point of this is like I want to have a place where I can interview and just freestyle, have conversations with people that I admire, I respect. I loved your comedy.
Thank you.
And was knee deep in it. More balls deep in it,
I see
we
what
should
you did
say.
there. Knee.
Yeah,
I saw what you did there.
Yeah, exactly. But there, I mean, there's a conceit of, I think that YouTube video almost got flagged for nudity in it.
Yes. Yeah. We had to work on that intro a little bit with the blurs.
We did.
Yeah.
Strategic blurs. That'd be a good show.
It worked.
If we did this show in the nude and just
Yeah.
strategic blurs.
My God, I was like, this special looks like a Netflix special because of you guys. Amazing quality, like fantastic work. And then I was like, and no one's ever going to see it because I had a butt in the beginning. And we had to go through a lot of blurs to get it right. And I didn't get flagged on my socials.
Fantastic. I mean, it was exciting. Certainly our mutual friend Nick Bradley had a lot to do with getting that going.
Absolutely.
And he produced the hell out of that thing.
Yeah.
As far as like getting us there with the whole camera crew, it was a great time.
Yeah, speaking of the butt, I mean, he was the man who was blaring that bad boy out.
That's right. Butt Master Flex.
Butt Master Nick Bradley, yeah.
Butt Master Bradley, I'll take all day.
But yeah, man, that's it. I was scared. I was like getting emails from YouTube. They're like, "This is flagged. Your account can get taken down." I'm like, "Oh, come on, man.
So
Relax."
I wish it was like, the head of Butt Patrol on YouTube. Like went after you, Mr. Porn Flag himself. But, comedian you were, I think right before the pandemic, you got passed in Atlantic City, right?
Yeah. So there used to be, before the pandemic, there was a club. It was called Philly Comedy Club, and it was down the city. And the manager ran that club, an Atlantic City Comedy Club, and that was in one of the hotels in Atlantic City. So before COVID happened, I auditioned. So she picked a bunch of comedians, probably 10 people, and you did a 5-minute set, and then she wrote notes, critiqued it, and then if she liked you, she's like, "Hey, you're going to work for me." And if she didn't, I guess they didn't hear back. But luckily enough, I heard from her. That was cool.
That's huge.
Yeah, Atlantic City was wild. Because I did the clubs in Philly. I've done Helium and Punchline and stuff like that. But AC was like, it's AC, it's trashy and horrible, but I was like, I'm going to AC.
You're living the comedian story of getting past.
Exactly.
How you said you started when you were 17.
Yeah.
So when was Helium? When were you starting to become? Were you a regular there?
No. So funny enough, when I think they changed the rules now, but back when I was 17, you had to be 18 to even go to a comedy club. But I was 17 and I wanted to do an open mic. I'll never forget it. I'm going to remember it for the rest of my life. It was the Comedy Cabaret in Northeast Philadelphia.
Yeah.
My dad drove me and I went up there and I went in, I signed my name, and then I literally waited in the parking lot until the dude before me was done, and then they called me up on stage. And I was so scared because the dude before me bombed, horribly bombed, and then he just started cursing off the audience because they weren't laughing at him. So he was just like, F you, F you, F you. And I'm 17.
I meant to apologize about that.
Yeah, like, dude, I'm going up there talking about like poop jokes and like stuff like that. I'm like, these people aren't going to think I'm funny. And then I went up, I did my set. I got a couple laughs, and then I walked off stage, and the MC's like, how old are you? You shouldn't even be here right now, should you? And he's like, well, I mean, it took him balls to get up here. Give it up for him. And that after that, man, that was it. But,
dude, I mean, stand-up comedy to me is my favorite thing. It's the skill I will not leave this earth not having being pretty good at. You know, it's just such the freedom. It's the last free medium.
It is.
You know, and I know I'm talking on like a hack. Like everybody who watches podcasts now, they're all comedians podcasts. They all talk inside baseball.
Yeah.
But it's just being able to go out with nothing. You have no crutch, you have no prop, you have no band.
Yeah.
And move an audience just to me seems like the greatest thing you can do.
It's crazy, dude. It's like you literally get a high from it. And when you do a show, and if you crush and if you do a really good show, like you can't sleep that night. Like your body is just like, you can't like relax, and you're just like, that was crazy. Like that was awesome. Like it's like crazy to explain it. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing. It's a one-man show. And the one thing that I loved about comedy too is like acting and stuff, there's scripts, and I dabbled in stuff like that. But like comedy, nobody knows that you mess up on stage unless you say to the crowd that you're messing up. Everyone just thinks it's part of the act. So I could be going off my act and then like drift off because I forgot something, but no one's going to know unless you freeze. So there's freedom with that. Yeah. So it's not like, oh, we got to do another take. Because once your name gets called and you're on that stage, man, there is no other take. It's live. It's live. You can't do anything about it.
I tried it when I was 21 or 22 because my family moved from upstate New York to the Pennsylvania area. And I was in college at the time. I think it was a junior. And I went out, and I remember I went out and I came out with a lot of energy. A lot of like that Dane Cook energy that everyone has a little bit.
Dude. Yeah.
And got a big laugh on the first joke.
Yeah.
And the second one, slightly less. And on the third one, a chuckle. And then on the fourth one through the seventh one. And it was, I mean, it sticks with you.
It does.
It took a while to get back up on stage. I was like, oh my God. Like, it would be one thing if I was flubbing punchlines, but no, the audience was just like, everything you wrote is bad.
Just dead silent. It's like crickets.
100%.
Well, Dave Chappelle said he loves the silence. He's like, make them silent. He's like, and that's like when you could either like, get back up from it or not. Dane Cook, I spoke with him a couple times, like over like, I love Dane.
Tell me over MySpace.
I wish it was MySpace. It was Instagram, but I don't care what anybody says. I love Dane Cook.
Wholeheartedly agree.
Revolutionized stand-up comedy. He was the rock star before there were rock stars. There was like Andrew Dice Clay and stuff like that, but no one did Madison Square Garden after Dice and like Eddie Murphy until Dane.
Really?
Dane did it before Kevin Hart did it.
Yeah, I always like to say, he is the blueprint for the modern comic, because he was I will make my own audience by interacting with them.
I like literally made my whole like comedy career because I'm independent. Yeah. I did everything off of Dane. Like I literally copied every single thing that he did. He's like, go to a show, talk to every audience member after a show. He's like, if someone comments on your video, he's like, comment back. If they message you on whatever, comment back. He's like, because you're building relationships regardless, like if they liked the show or if they didn't. And I took that to heart because I tried managers and stuff like that, and got raped in the end with some stuff. So after that, I was like, I'm never doing management ever again.
It doesn't make sense anymore. Like it seemed, we actually have the same thing in our field of it used to be I would only work with agencies. So agencies would come to my company and hire us for video production. But agencies want to do what agencies want to do.
Exactly.
It's kind of like, and it's funny, me and the producer Dylan, we're going to work on a sketch about this. It's kind of like you want Chinese food. So you call the Chinese food place and ask for Chinese food.
Yeah.
and somebody shows up with a pizza instead.
Yeah.
That's kind of, and it's like, no, this is what you want. What we do is, like, now I'm very much like, let me cut that agency. We don't need it. So an agency is going to cost a client, $1 million.
Yeah.
And then they're going to hire me for, a couple grand.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm just like, well, what if this wasn't here?
Then you get it all.
You also get what you asked for.
Yeah.
Because they go to the agency and they say, hey, we want to do a 2-man podcast where we drink beers. That's great. Here's 4 microphones and there's no beer anymore. Oh, and by the way, it's about cats.
And then your creative mind and your art. It is art, what you're doing. It's taken away from you, and you're literally nothing without that. And I saw that too, because like when I was with like this agent for a while, it like you just saw dollar signs. So I was getting paid more money doing shows, and I was doing cooler shows, and I was doing venues. But then like when you see, and it's like, wow, I put these asses in these seats and you're taking half of my paycheck. Yeah. It's like, I'm the reason people are here. You just booked a venue.
What do they do? Well, what do they do now?
It's crazy. So
I got it back in the day, for sure. You're not getting on TV without a manager back in the day.
Yeah. So now it's like, basically it's relationships with venues is really what an agent is doing. They're the ones, instead of, I don't know, people are lazy and they don't want to contact booking agents or clubs themselves to promote themselves. They get the agent and they do all that work. Or mine, he actually did like metal bands and stuff like that. I was the first comedian that he ever took on, and we played venues in the city like the Trocadero Theater. Have you ever been there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we did 5 shows at the Trocadero Theater.
Oh my God.
The first show was the small room with like 250 people, and then the next 4 shows were main stage. So it's crazy because my one buddy who is also a comedian, we went to see Dice. Dice was playing at the Trocadero the week before our show at the Trocadero. And I'm like, he's playing a Wednesday night. I'm like, we got a Saturday. Like, it's like, he had probably sold way more tickets than us, but I was like, we got a Saturday, dude.
Yeah, but that's
I was
gotta feel amazing.
He sold out Madison Square Garden, dude.
Yeah. I love Dice too. Like,
Dice is great.
He's really funny. He recently was on like Joe Rogan, and that was really cool to see.
Yeah.
But he preferred the acting thing.
Yeah.
It sounds like, instead of the stand-up thing. Do you think, this kind of segues into our discussion. You are now branching out of comedy for a whole new thing, but I think it ties into your story.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely ties into my story, and if people who know like my comedy, I'm very personal. So like I like my comedy shows like this, like we're literally just sitting down having a couple beers and telling funny stories. Like that's kind of how I approach it. But obviously there is pain behind the comedy, and that's what branches out to, the book, which is great because, I suffer from, panic disorder and generalized anxiety, and it like sucked. Like,
what does that mean? Panic disorder.
So panic disorder is literally when you feel like you can't breathe. You literally feel like you're having a heart attack, and you start hyperventilating, and it gets to the point where you have a full-blown panic attack where you're sweating, your body temperatures are going up and down, you're like shake, like you literally feel like you're dying. When you first get it, if you talk probably 90% of people, if they have panic disorder and you ask them when they first figured out what's going on, they're like, the first couple times I had it, I thought I was having a panic. Like I thought I was having a heart attack. And
that's what I've always heard, is like people going to the hospital complaining of heart attack.
And then they just say it's...
Which is insane.
Yeah.
Because now is it actually like a physical thing, or is it all in your mind?
It starts out in the mind. That's where the generalized anxiety disorder. So people have like anxieties on a daily basis, which people do suffer from that. But people who actually have a mental illness and actually have like an anxiety disorder, it's not once every month, or like if you have a bad day at work or a date didn't go good and you're feeling down in the dumps. Like this is every single day.
Well, maybe you can answer this too.
Yeah.
Some people... It's very popular nowadays to say you have anxiety.
Yeah.
But this is a different level. Like, do you feel when people are complaining about anxiety, some of them are just kind of being a bitch and not living real life, and then there's this whole other lane? Or do you think it all mixes?
I talk about it in my book, actually. If anybody says that they're suffering from whatever, I take it severely serious, and I don't I don't like make fun of you or anything like that. But like I said, there's a big difference of people who just have anxiety every once in a while because life is going kind of shaky or whatever.
Yeah.
But people who actually have a disorder, it's literally from the moment you wake up until the moment you put your head back down on the pillow,
Mhm.
24/7. You're your own worst enemy. And that's where
Wait, 24/7?
literally
It's always there.
24/7. Yeah. Like people can't get out of their minds. It's crazy. That's what I suffered with. But generalized anxiety, I worry. Like I'm a chronic worrier.
Mhm.
So my teen years, like when I first developed getting it, I I slept a lot because I was going to bed late because I had insomnia because I couldn't sleep. And then if I did go to sleep, I would have panic attacks when I was trying to sleep. So like literally managing very low hours of sleep per night. So you're already starting the day the next day with a horrible mentality
Mhm.
and it just literally drags out. Like you worry about I say it in the book, like 90% of the stuff that you worry about, you shouldn't even have to worry about at all. And a lot of it has to do with the future. It's like, well, am I ever going to get married? Am I ever going to get a good job? Am I ever going to, whatever? And you literally, instead of living in the moment, you just keep thinking, thinking, and thinking. And as you're thinking, your emotions are like building up in your body. And, a lot of people suffer in silence and they bottle everything up. And when I bottled everything up, that's when I got panic attacks because I wasn't letting anything out. It just like a volcano.
And before we do pitch the book,
Mhm.
the panic attacks are not I don't think, in my estimation,
Yeah.
knowing you, I don't think that they were a random comeuppance, but more something that happened due to what happened as a child.
Yeah, I mean, I was dealt a very shitty card.
Yeah,
I talk about that a lot in the book. Like the first chapter, people will get to like really see it. When I was 4 years old, I was diagnosed with ALL leukemia cancer. I had to go through chemotherapy. I literally lost all my hair. It was like, and then I got hurt easily as a kid. I would bruise easily. I couldn't. My parents tried their best to like make me have a normal life.
Yeah.
So like I had a bunch of friends, and like I was allowed to play sports, but you got like the cancer card as a kid. Like I got like awards playing baseball. They're like, oh, a Brave Ship Award or just like some dumb shit, which kind of makes it worse.
It kind of does.
Dude, it makes it worse. Like I would like to just be treated normal and like not have that.
Well, especially if you're about to lead into a panic disorder,
Yeah.
attention is probably
Yeah.
not the best.
Yeah. So it's like it started out with cancer, and then cancer led to IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome, which is with nerves and anxiety, where like your stomach is messed up all the time and you always have cramps and pooping everywhere. And
Yep.
it really it sucks. And then that going into high school literally led to like where I got diagnosed with generalized anxiety and panic disorder because I was getting panic attacks all the time. And I went to the doctor, and that's when my doctor's like, he's like, you're not dying. He's like, this is what you have. And then I was like, oh.
So I was gonna ask like how you're diagnosed with the panic disorder.
Yeah.
I assume you're doing follow-ups with cancer doctors regularly.
Yeah. So I went to Children's Hospital, but then when I had to do yearly checkups at Children's Hospital until I was 18 years old. Then when I was considered adult, I just had to go for yearly checkups with my regular doctor, my primary doctor, not at CHOP. So yeah, it just was like happening over and over and over again, and like I was really getting worried about it. And I went to the doctor, told him all my symptoms, and that's when he diagnosed me. And then I found out that it's also genetic, which a lot of people
Really?
don't know. My mom suffers from generalized anxiety and panic disorder. My mom's the same person as me. It's crazy. Like we both care so much. We both hurt so much. We both worry so much. We get panic attacks. I'm her. It's crazy. My dad has like regular anxieties, like same with my brother, but like me and my mom are like the same. But that's the key.
Yeah.
When you find out you have someone to relate about it, like that's when it gets better.
I assume that's probably the same when it comes to, childhood illness, specifically in the cancer world. I'm sure you still have, brothers and sisters from that time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I have my brother. He's 2 years older than me. That's my only brother that I have. But yeah, I mean.
Oh, I meant like at CHOP.
Oh,
like
yeah,
other
for sure.
families and
So
stuff
it's
that you
actually
still
funny.
have bonds.
it was crazy. Like I would be at school for like 2 weeks and then I'd be out of school for like 3 weeks and I'd be in the hospital for 3 weeks. And I actually became good friends with this kid that I still talk to today. This kid, John Villari, he had cancer and we were literally next to each other. So my parents got close with his parents and like, dude, we would play with like Stretch Armstrong, like pull it
Across the
from
bed?
across the beds and stuff like
Oh.
that. And yeah, he went to the same school as I did. He was a little younger than me, but I literally still bump into him a lot. And when I see him, it's always love. Like people don't know what we went through, and it's just like you bond with somebody like that, like you've never bonded before. So
Yeah, I couldn't even imagine.
yeah,
Couldn't even imagine. I mean,
Yeah.
that's you're going to sleep in a hospital.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, even that alone. But so that's interesting. So you think the disorder would have been there regardless of cancer or not?
I think regardless because it is genetic.
Mhm.
But I mean, it is what it is. I couldn't really do anything.
I mean, is
about
it so? It's like hanging out with you all day.
Yeah, so right like now I'm very good. Like now this is why like I'm putting this book out.
Yeah.
Because I everything that like mental illness has to offer, I literally dealt with it on a personal level. Like I've had anxiety, I've been depressed, I've had panic attacks. I know people who died from suicide. I've taken medication before, I went to therapy before. Like I have so many dabbled in everything with it, but as you get older, and that's why I wanted to make this guidebook, is because like I'm giving you like my tools of like really what helped for me, and like it changed my like I right now I only have panic attacks maybe once every 6 months, if that, but it's not as bad as it used to be.
Yeah.
And that's because you have to learn to be your best friend. When you're going through that panic attack, you think you're dying at first and you're thinking worst case scenario. But as you keep suffering through them, you literally talk to yourself, you're like, okay, I'm having a panic attack right now. I'm not going to die. I'm not having a heart attack.
Yeah.
I'm going to get through it. And you kind of just talk to yourself through it. Like people probably think I'm crazy, man. I talk to myself 24/7 on like a daily basis. But
What do you call yourself?
dude, it's just Chris.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, dude, I'm like I've gotten to a point right now where like I'm like very good. I was on medication for a year, and I got off it in less than a year, like 6 months. I got off of it, and I've never taken anything ever again.
Do you think for other people suffering from the situation, do you think medication is a good first stop?
I think therapy is the best, because people like they think therapy is like what you see in movies and TVs when you're sitting in this weird room and a dude's like showing you pictures or like writing all this stuff, and it's really the complete opposite. You're in a comfortable room and you're just having a legit conversation. 99% of people just need to get what's out of their chest and what's on their mind, but they don't talk to anybody about it, so they just literally suffer. And everything in there is confidential. So you go in there and you talk about it, you get it all out, you walk out, you literally feel like the best man. Like,
Was your stuff buried beneath anything, or was it pretty much right there on Front Street?
right there on Front Street. Yeah. Yeah. It was, yeah. Like when I was younger, it was bad. Like it was really bad. I went to, but that's like the good thing though. Like therapy and medication is there, but like you can take it when you need it. It's not a permanent thing. Like if you go to therapy tomorrow, you don't got to be there for the next 3 years. You can go there for 3 weeks, and then if you feel better, you're like, all right, cool. I have your number. If I ever need you again, I'll call you.
Yeah.
Or if you go on medication, you go on medication and then see what happens. And then if you don't like it, like I didn't. For me personally, I was on Lexapro, which is like the most common antidepressant that they give to people.
This is also sponsored by Lexapro.
Yes, it is. Give me a check. No. My next comedy show, I'm just wearing like a
Lexapro t-shirt.
But
This is my Lex Flex.
yeah. But so I went on the Lexapro. So the first time, I should probably explain this a little bit more.
Yeah, please.
The first time I went to therapy was just regular CBT, like behavioral therapy, and that was just like getting everything off.
CBD? As in
it's
like CBD oil?
No, CBT.
Oh, CBT. Okay.
Yeah, it's cognitive behavioral therapy.
Uh-huh.
And that was the first time I went, and that's basically just like literally like your intro into therapy. You have a therapist, and you go in there and like, what's bothering you? Do you have anything that's off your chest? Are you worrying about anything? They teach you exercises. Like I learned some really cool stuff from that actually really really helped me. My favorite thing that he taught me, the two favorite things that he taught me was one is music therapy. A lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah.
Music therapy is you literally sit in a room, either your bedroom or like whatever room by yourself in complete silence, put on whatever song brings you nostalgia.
Mhm.
For me, it's Dave Matthews Band, Old Dirt Hill. I love that song.
Absolutely.
And every time I listen to it, I literally like, it just makes me feel good. And I love fishing. So every summer, my dad and my brother, we'd go out on fishing trips. So with that therapy, you listen to the same song like over and over again. And then you envision yourself like me. I'm like, I have a line in and I'm on the ocean and I'm
Really?
surrounded by nothing but water. And because that's doing two things, it's controlling your breathing. And then it's also taking your mind off of whatever you're worrying about. And that nostalgia feeling brings endorphins into your body, which makes you feel good.
I would love this podcast to be about reclaiming the greatness of Dane Cook and Dave Matthews
Thank
Band.
you. Yes.
Right?
My
They have
my
always
two
been
favorite
good.
things.
They've always been good.
Yeah.
I don't know what the world's problem is. They're
Yeah.
still good.
Yeah.
It's still good.
Yeah.
You can listen to Jimmy think.
Yeah. But that was great. And then another thing is what my therapist called it, and this is what I put in the book too. It's called Two Shitty Pillows and Dirty Carpets. And in his
What does that mean?
So in his office, he had like horrible decor. And he said, look around the office and tell me what you see. And he's like, I know I have shitty pillows over there and my carpet's dirty, but whatever. So he named it that because when you're in like a panic mode or like if you're worrying, the main thing that you want to do is take your mind off of that worry and put on anything else. Okay. So he wants you to be present. So if you're worrying, you can look around the room and be like, oh, that's a black desk. You have a sword there. There's camo beers. And you're literally like pointing out shit in the room. And he was like, I was like, the pillows, the carpet. And I was just pointing stuff out in the room. And that was like literally controlling my mind on putting on something else instead of the worries. Like two little things like that. It's crazy.
So let's kind of go into the book now.
Yeah.
First time author.
Mm-hmm.
And when do you decide to write the book?
So I decided to write the book because if anyone's seen my stand-up comedy, like I talk a lot about anxiety and stuff like that. And there's so many times after shows when audience members would come up to me and they'd be like, do you really have anxiety? Like, do you really have a panic disorder? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, I do. And then they're like, I can't believe you have that when you're literally going on stage and like performing and being funny. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It was like motivation. And so that was really cool. And then I had a lot of friends who suffered from anxiety, depression. I lost two of my best friends from suicide. And it's like, it hurts. It sucks. And it just stinks because they felt like they didn't have a life to live. They were so depressed and that nothing was going to get better. And it got to the point where like I was kind of like being a therapist to my friends. Like if they were feeling down, I'm the one that they would talk to like, get stuff better and, get out of their feelings. Like I had so many late night conversations with my friends if they're suffering like through whatever, or if like they're just experiencing anxiety for the first time. Cause sometimes like there's no timeline on when it could hit you.
Yeah.
Like you could be fine your whole life and then you're 40 and you're depressed as hell or you're anxious as hell for no reason or life really kicks you in the ass because you're just struggling to get by and then it's starting to hit you. So it was just cool to like just be like the shoulder to lean on and like talk to people. And then I just got to thinking, I'm like, why just give what I know and everything just to people I know when I could be helping so many silent sufferers out there. So that really put it in the gear. And I was just like, I wanted to write a book for a while.
Yeah.
Like writing was kind of like second nature with me because comedy, obviously, like you're writing all the time. So like writing is easy for me, which is like kind of crazy because like it can go, either way. But for me, like I'm very creative. Obviously, like I did like comedy and, I did like a lot of public speaking classes and creative writing classes and stuff like that. So like, if you like tell me like something stupid, I could literally like write like a 10-page paper on it and it'd be great. Not great, but it'd be hilarious.
Like about why it's stupid?
Or like whatever. If you're just like, hey, there's like a fat dude drinking a beer at the bar, but he wants to have sex with this hooker, write a story about it. And like, I literally like I have that in my mind because it just comes from like joke slinging and like writing bits. So
Yeah.
it's like if I have something that I could work with, I could just write it down. So it came easy.
So, how do you write? Do you write?
Comedy or book?
Oh, good question. Let's
There's a
stick with
difference.
book first
Okay.
because we're trying
So
to sell you some shit.
so book, same thing. I went into it the same way that I went into writing comedy. You can't force it. That's why this book took me close to 2 years to write because I'm not going to just sit down and write trash. I'm never going to just sit down and throw together a 5 minute bit that I never rehearsed before or just put together. I don't think it's funny, but maybe it'll hit. I never half-assed anything in my life. So same thing with writing. I could sit down and I could write 5 bits. I could sit down and I could just write one chapter. So the main thing was not forcing myself to write. I knew where I wanted to go with everything. So I knew where I wanted to go. I just had to put it on paper. So I literally, it's kind of just like, if you're in a routine, going to the gym,
Yeah.
eating healthy, it's kind of like that. It's like, all right, I'm going to go home. I'm going to make dinner, go to the gym, and then I'm going to sit down and write for an hour. And sometimes when you sit down and write for an hour, you're not really writing, but you're coming up with ideas, stuff like that.
So, are you like a word vomit and revise, or are you more clear when you're writing your first draft?
I would say I'm clear, but my wife would say no. I, I mean, I'm great at telling stories. So a lot of like the book is semi autobiographical with like my life, but it also has like, real stuff in it as well, not real stuff, but like it also has like facts and actual things in it. So I wrote it and I can keep people glued to the paper, but then, it's probably grammar errors and stuff like that. So on that note, not great, but like
Yeah.
I could word vomit like fuck like 10 paragraphs.
Yeah.
And then be like, see how it is.
Well, that was always my thing. Is like I would like to. Always like taking the mornings and doing a word vomit in the morning. I'm just the reason I started doing it was like, okay, if you can dump out monkey mind, then you can kind of focus the rest of the day. So I did it for focus. I am technically quote unquote a creative, but for me, I'm
You are.
very serious about when it becomes. Um, you got to work hard on your art for it to be art has always been my thing.
Sure.
Whereas, when a lot of our stuff, we have to come up with factory driven formulas in order to create stuff.
Yeah.
And for me, like if true art is something different. It's something that's out there. Now, your art is your comedy.
Yeah.
Is this book an expression of you artistically or more a helpful guide?
I honestly think it's a very healthy mix of both. I put comedy into it because obviously I don't want to just make a sob story and make people feel more depressed and anxious. Like I want to put stuff in there that'll make you giggle or make you cheer up. But also like I was very I didn't let my wife read it for a long time. Like that's just like how I am. Like if I'm not happy with exactly what a chapter looks like, then I'm not going to let anybody read it until I have it the way that I want it.
So, what you said you were just kind of like drawn to do this. It's also your first book. I assume self-published,
Yeah.
just like everything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's kind of the plan for the book? What are your goals for it? Like, how's it even being sold?
So everything I'm going through, it is basically independent. It's Amazon publishing. So they just take printing fees out of the book because every book is print to order unless you get the digital copy. So it's you're not going to find a better deal. So it's perfect. So
Oh, wait, actually explain that for potential authors.
yeah, so there's a bunch of publishing websites but a lot of people, it's kind of like an agency. They want your money and they want percentages of what you do. Amazon, they just have a printing charge for you. So if you're
But
selling
they'll make you a physical book?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, say if I put the book out for $12 or whatever, they'll take $3 to print that book out of that, and then I'll get like $6 royalty or whatever. So the money is better, but also like anybody can put a book on there, which is great. So if you have a creative mind and if you just want to put a book out, like it doesn't matter what it is, it could be either like sci-fi or it could be a cartoon book or whatever, you could put it on there. And it just gives people who are new authors and even seasoned authors like a chance to like just express themselves and put their work out there. So it's great.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes back to just where we are in today's world of like, if you want to control it, if you want to put your honest message out there and not have interference, there's ways to do it now.
Yeah.
And I think that's, was that particularly important to you that you get out your story?
Exactly. Yeah, because I had, some people like actual like publishing companies, like they're like, oh, because I copyrighted my stuff, so I own everything. So they're just like, oh, I saw this come through the copyright office. We'd love to be your publisher. And then it's just like, no.
Really?
Yeah, it's like I like doing stuff on my own.
That reminds me of like the lawyers that follow the ambulance.
Literally. Yeah. Yeah. And Amazon's cool because it gives you a digital download. So if anybody has a Kindle or Apple like books or whatever, you could do that. Soft copy and hard copy. So whatever you like as a reader, they offer that for you. It's great. And I don't have to sign with the publisher and print out 800 books and like take money out of my wallet to do it. And then, try to make that money back. Amazon's just like, no, we just take a printing charge off of you and give you your royalties.
Thanks, Jeff Bezos.
So that was my reason for doing it that way.
One thing I do want to bring up about the book is the front cover. Tell me about this. Tell me about who did it. Tell me about what it's inspired by. Tell me about it.
Yeah. So when you see the cover, I grew up, well, my best friend, our friend, mutual friend, Nick Bradley, he drew it. Yeah. He was the artist of the cover. That kid is so good and artistic at drawing. It's crazy. I remember in high school, he would like draw people's tattoos and sell it to them. And
what?
Yeah, he would like draw people's tattoos and they would pay him. And then they would go to the shop and like get it.
Get out of here.
Yeah. So, so he was my guy. So, and we both absolutely love Boy Meets World. Like that was my favorite show growing up. I still binge watch it whenever I can. It's literally the best in Philadelphia. Like, and it was the one show where it literally had nothing bad. It gave real life experiences and just like how life should be. I loved it. And it
explained how to navigate every situation you might run into.
From literally when you're kids to like, having sex for the first time or going to college or like, just it was the best. I loved it. So I always just had that picture of like the original logo of them like in my head. Obviously I had to put my own spin on it because I don't want to get sued or anything. Yeah. But so I was just like, this is what I knew immediately. I'm like, my book is going to be called Boy Meets Anxiety because it's literally kind of, you see me grow in this book. You learn from me when I was diagnosed with cancer all the way to like how I am now and like how I'm how I'm good. So you're kind of growing with the book as you read, which is great. So I was like, it's Boy Meets Anxiety. I'm like, if you see that on the shelf, everybody knows Boy Meets World. Yeah. So they're like, what's Boy Meets Anxiety? Like what is that? So it's a little cartoon me with a hat on backwards, and then I have a brain there for mental health and
Foot's up.
Yeah, foot's up. And
I thought it was interesting that you went with like the middle school logo, the one before the car intro. Yeah. I don't know if it was when this boy meets world. I think it's the one before.
It was the one before. Yeah.
But after the
Originally I liked the one that had like the baseball and like the paper airplane in it, but then I'm like, no, this one's like
he was a kid, then he was like a middle schooler, and then I think middle school to high school. Yeah. Someone figure this out. How long was Corey Matthews in school?
Yeah, he was like middle school and then he was high school and he was college. Did he go college?
I think it ends with the end of college.
Yeah, end of college. Yeah.
And it ends in one of my favorite ways where like he kind of meets I think it's a little girl. No, it's a little boy. Like doesn't his mom and dad have like another kid?
Yeah.
Like way after, and he's like, Mr. Feeney's gonna teach you everything you ever need to know.
Yeah.
Huh. Boy Meets World. And it ends with him saying Boy Meets World. And it's like, yes.
The class
that
dismissed.
Perfect. TGIF. Woo! I cried so hard on the last episode of that show.
Every time I see Feeney quotes on like TikTok, they just get you. They tug on the heartstrings, so many great life lessons. But yeah, so I mean, that's marketing 101. If somebody sees that, they're going to be like, oh, this kind of looks familiar, even if they don't know what it's from, but they're like, this kind of looks familiar.
Corey had
Yeah.
anxiety.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that's how I envisioned it the entire time. So
Yeah.
I was like, this is my title. I never went through any other titles. So I'm like, this is my title. This is exactly what I want for my cover, and that's it. Like, I never second guess it.
So let's crack the book.
Yeah.
What's chapter 1?
So there's 15 chapters in this book, and every single chapter deals with a different part of mental health. So chapter 1 is called Happy Thanksgiving because I got diagnosed with cancer on Thanksgiving. Yeah. So that's basically like an introduction to me, is that. And then I do so many different chapters. So it's like intro into the anxious mind. So I kind of just talk about like what anxiety is, like what's going on in your mind. But then I also have a chapter dedicated to just therapy. I have a chapter dedicated just to prescriptions. I have a chapter dedicated to sexual anxiety. I have a chapter dedicated to suicide because I want to spread suicide awareness. A lot of people don't like to talk about that, and that like really irks my soul. So I was like, I'm making a whole chapter dedicated
Why
to
don't
this
they want to talk about it?
because they don't want kids to. People don't like to be real. So like people like to sugarcoat stuff, and that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to do this book is because I'm being extremely real with you. You like regardless if you're a teenager right now, if you're in your mid 20s, like not right now, but you're going to know someone who probably is going to die from suicide. And people like families don't like to talk about it. And because the stigma of it, it's just it's horrible. You hear about somebody taking their own life. It's like the worst thing that can happen. And I want to put that out there to get you prepared. Like, listen, it's probably going to happen to you. Like you're going to know somebody. And I'm giving you tools because I've dealt with it personally, how to cope with that. That was the second time I went to therapy because after my friend committed suicide, I was grieving so bad that like I never grieved before in my life. Like I lost family members and loved ones, but they lived long lives. It wasn't anything like, it sucks that they're gone, but like it's acceptable. Oh, they were 90, whatever. But when a 16-year-old is getting bullied off of social media and he doesn't think that he fits in with anybody and he takes his own life, that's devastating. So I want people to know that like this is how you cope with it, and there's no timeline on how you cope with it, and so that's why I wanted to do that. I put in a chapter for that.
So are these tools of if you are in a situation where someone you're close to commits suicide, or is it also like to deal with your own potentially suicidal thoughts?
This whole book is for everybody. So regardless if you are dealing with a mental illness or if you know somebody who's dealing with it, or if you just want to learn about it.
Yeah.
That's what this book is for. So it's for everybody. So that's why I made it the way that I made it. And so it's for people who are just, they want to pick up a book, or people who are actually struggling, or there's so many people out there that are just curious. It could help them when they have kids in the future, or, if they're a teacher, whatever. So that's why I did it.
Long book, short book?
150 pages.
Okay.
So it's not too bad. But yeah, each chapter deals with something different.
Is there any jokes, comedy in it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you'll see I did some serious pictures, but then I also did some funny pictures in there. And the way that I talk, I made some stuff humorous. So I want people to laugh, but I also want to be serious as well. So I didn't want to like just do all jokes because it's, it's a serious thing. But my comedy. So like the way that I tell the story, people are going to enjoy it.
So would you be able to like do an audio version of it on Amazon as well? Is that an option?
That's not an option on Amazon, but I want to see how everything goes. And then some people actually already asked me about an audiobook. I hate hearing myself. So I don't know. Like I was talking to some people and they're just like, dude, if you do it, like you have to read it. It's your story. And I'm like, yeah, but what if I get somebody else to read it? They're like, no, you have to read it.
I agree.
It's like, seeing my own stand up, I just,
well, you don't have to listen to it. You just got to record it.
You just got to record it.
You just got to read it.
Yeah. No, it's definitely something I'm seriously looking into. But first, I want to get everything out and see how it goes first before I do that.
If you could have people like take away a message from the book, what would it be?
Don't struggle alone. Don't suffer in silence. Speak up. Um, if you go to a party and there's like 10 people there, probably 5 people there are dealing with a mental illness, and you have no clue because you don't talk about it.
So what's kind of the goal? How often should we be talking about it?
I mean, you can talk about it as much as you want, but literally the reason I made this book is because I just want one person to come up to me and say, because of you, I didn't give up.
All right, so we had a little bit of a technical thing, but the rest of the audio is here, so you'll just see a fun picture of me when I'm talking and a fun picture of Chris when he's talking. Just so you know, continue to enjoy the episode.
And I talk about the one chapter, it's called Bottom of the Cup, but I'm not trying to drown. And it talks about anxiety, which people deal with when they're older, that's another thing.
Say it again.
It's anxiety, but it's anxiety when you're hungover, and it's horrible. Yeah.
It's a hangover.
Yeah, but it's worse because you have super bad anxiety with it. And
is this like when you black out and don't know what you did?
Yeah, if like you're going hard.
That's called anxiety?
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people get it, man. It's crippling. Some people they'll be hungover for 4 days. The actual their body feels horrible for 2 days because of all the stuff that you put in your system. But after that, you're still mentally drained, and you're like, oh shit. So
see, I thought that was going to be more like FOMO. Like I couldn't hang out. I have anxiety, or I don't want to hang out.
Yeah.
But feel I have to hang out.
So the chapter really a lot of times when I was younger in high school and stuff like that, I know I drank more than I should because I had social anxiety, and I figured a couple more brewskis and I'll open up and be the life of the party.
Yeah, that's why we do this show.
Exactly, camo beer. But so I talk
camouflage your anxiety.
Yeah. So I talk about that, but then I also talk about what you feel and how you get over it. But then also we're young and everybody has fun every once in a while, and you're allowed to. But I also give alternatives. They have mocktails and stuff like that I talk about. If you literally can't drink, regardless if you have 1 beer, 6 beers, and you're literally you feel like crap the next day,
yeah,
you can still go out and have fun. You can be social, just get a little mocktail or something.
I think that's an interesting thing happening in society is the abundance of things like sober bars, and generations just choosing not to drink. Not our generation. I mean, it was expected and encouraged. And if your first beer wasn't out of a funnel, you were a loser.
Yeah.
But I think we're in an interesting place with that, because I think a lot of people do want to still go out and not drink, but have that crippling anxiety of how do I talk to other humans?
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this book, is because if you're taking antidepressant, you shouldn't drink. You're allowed to have a couple drinks, but you can't drink. You're mixing a depressant with an antidepressant, and you're literally setting yourself up for failure. And people don't know that. People just think, people are just hey man, I take an antidepressant, they're going out and they're blacking out, and it's you're literally making your situation worse than what it is. But that's I feel that.
So the girls I used to date who would have a Xanax and a white wine were not doing the right thing?
Not into it.
You're kidding me.
But I mean, I bought that into it because I think that's a new thing. I mean, I think that's a new thing that a lot of people in this generation are dealing with. I mean, that I had to learn about it, but when I was younger, I was just going out and having a good time. But people nowadays, they're oh man, I have social anxiety. I don't want to go out because I don't want to drink, because I don't want to feel horrible or whatever. And now there's options. They have the mocktails and stuff like that. And
what about the other side of the equation of there are things that are just, there's things in life that are scary and you have to force yourselves to do them, and then they become less scary. I'll bet stand-up is perfect for that.
Yeah.
But I worry a little bit about people using anxiety as a crutch when it's really just I have to put myself in an uncomfortable situation to learn it.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that part of anxiety of the perfect example is the batter's box in Little League is terrifying.
Okay.
But there's something wonderful about being forced into that box and having to face a pitcher. And that's scary as a kid. You could strike out in front of everyone you know.
Yeah.
But the courage to get in there is what will set you up for success later in life.
Literally, I wouldn't have done stand-up or done the really cool things that life has blessed me with if I didn't have my anxiety. Whenever I had my back up against the wall, it made me be good. It made me crush. It made me like do stuff that I would never do. I have 2 chapters in the book. One is called Sorry, I'm an Attention Whore. And it literally talks about how I have pictures in the book. You'll see I talk about, there's a picture of me, this one comedian took it. We were backstage, I was about to take on the Trocadero and I was having a panic attack.
Yeah.
And my head was against the wall and I'm like trying to breathe because I'm headlining. I'm going up next and I'm doing 30 minutes. And I can't get my shit together. I'm like fucking hyperventilating. So that's the first picture, is me against the wall like that. And then right when my name was called and I went up on stage, went out the door, went on for 30 minutes and crushed.
What's the lesson?
That if you're always, when you feel uncomfortable, so people don't understand that there's good anxiety and there's bad anxiety. There's really bad anxiety, which I've been talking about, but there is good anxiety. When people get too like excited about things like a first date or like a big event, you get anxiety. But when you push yourself to be more uncomfortable than what you are, then you're setting yourself up for success, because you're literally putting yourself in a situation where like you're doing something cool and rad that like you might not want to do it. There's like shows where I'm like, dude, I'm not feeling it. I'm like mentally drained. Like I'm not feeling it. I don't want to do this, but I'm like, people paid a ticket. I got to go. I got to do it. And I never regret it, pushing myself to get through it. So,
and I don't want to spoil the book or anything like that, but you know, that chapter of you up against the wall, like, how does that work? What did you do to be able to walk out on stage? You're hyperventilating.
The funny thing is, there's nothing, I couldn't get out of it.
Yeah.
There's nothing that I couldn't do. Like, I was headlining, they were already there for like an hour watching a comedy show. And, you know, a lot of people paid tickets to see me. So I was like, I just went. And like, later, but it was crazy. Like, so I was doing breathing exercises. So like, obviously not like the music meditation or anything like that, but like just trying to like control your breathing. Just like take breaths in with your nose and out of your mouth and just like, you know, get the negative energy out. But it's crazy. That's why I say like it's like a drug, because like literally once they called my name and music started playing and I heard clapping, it went away.
So comedy, for me, the anxiety that I have the times that I've done it is all based around memorizing what the fuck I wrote.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that?
That's kind of like what I touched on earlier. It's great to have a whole bit. I'm going to start with this. I'm going to go with this, do this in the middle, and then I'm going to end with this to bring it all back.
Yeah.
But that's the fun thing about comedy, though.
That the people don't know.
They don't know. But you think
You're
they
grasping.
know. But you think they know.
Fair enough.
So if you're going up there and it's not hitting, and the only thing you're thinking of, wait, so like I just talked about like farting in my girl's face, but now am I supposed to go to like when I blacked out last weekend, or am I supposed to go to this? That's where your head's going. But if you just keep your confidence up there and you're just like, that's where improv comes in. And it's just like, you could always fuck with the crowd all the time. Mm-hmm.
So, you know,
and the one, I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off. I met Bill Burr like years ago. I saw him down at the Tower Theater in my hometown in Upper Darby, and I got to meet him afterwards, and we were just talking comedy. I was like, oh, I'm a local comedian. Every comedian I ever met, hey, I'm a local comedian, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And I had that. I'm like, man, because there was times when I froze up on stage because I'm like, I had like a theater background. Mm-hmm. So like you memorize scripts and stuff like that. And like, that's kind of how I attempted comedy, is like, it's like a script, you know?
Yeah.
But when you mess up, you're like, blank on stage and you're like, oh shit. But you don't have any castmates or anybody to cover your ass. You're on there. So it's either you stand up there and you freeze or you work through it. And I was just like, the bombing, I'm like, or if I forget my stuff, I'm like, it makes me feel horrible.
Yeah.
I'm like, it makes me feel like I never want to do it again. And then he goes, let me tell you something, kid. He's like, I've been doing comedy for a long time. He's like, no one gives a shit. He's like, you think that they give a shit? He's like, no one gives a shit. He's like, unless you're selling out theaters and like all this stuff and making all this money and you're freezing up on stage. He's like, when you're just doing these shows and you're making yourself a name, if you bomb on stage, you think these audience members are gonna be like, oh, Chris Nee bombed, like he was horrible. They're not even gonna think about you when you walk out. And then I'm like, yeah, you're probably right.
The big thing that just makes no sense is how does someone with the anxiety you had become a comedian? It does not make sense to me.
So that goes back to when I had cancer, because when I was in the hospital, like the only options I had were watching TV and movies for a long time, which I always watched, like Saturday Night Live, watched comedy movies and stand-up comedy. That like literally got me through it. And then my whole thing and my whole drive was like, dude, I want to be a cancer survivor who makes it, like doing comedy, like makes a name for myself, and to be, my main goal was like one day to be a Make-A-Wish for someone, to be like, dude, I want to be that comedian. And then I'd be like, yeah, dude, you had cancer, I had cancer. I thought that world threw all this shit at me, and I'm selling out all this stuff, and I'm touring, I'm doing all this good stuff, like to give people hope. And that was like my drive. It's still my drive. Wow. And that was it, dude. Like I literally didn't. My dad had like a handheld, a big ass bulky handheld camera, dude. And because like
you put a full VHS tape in it.
Oh my god, dude! There was like I would make the Chris Nee show, and because like I couldn't be physical a lot because I was sick, I would film myself for hours and hours and hours, making up characters, making up skits. They were all god awful, but I was like, this is great, dude. Like, this is what I'm going to do. And then when I was 17 and I started doing comedy, and then the interactions with people, it just like literally keeps you going. Mm-hmm. Like, it's crazy. The show so when I was in Atlantic City, this is my favorite like interaction with anybody ever. Comedy is crazy, dude. Because like if you're not Chappelle or like someone super famous, like you're literally doing a show maybe in front of like a sold out crowd, and then you're going to your 9 to 5 the next day. Yeah. It's a weird life, dude. So Atlantic City, at the show, like people ask for pictures and like I'll sign in stickers for people, and then like on Monday I'm going back to my shitty job. But I was featuring in Atlantic City, which was sick. So my first time in Atlantic City, I featured. So I was doing 20 minutes before the headliner came on. So there was 3 comedians before me, and then I was the feature act, and then the headliner came on. So that was like huge. Yeah. I thought that like when we need you in Atlantic City this weekend, I thought I was gonna get like a 5-minute spot, like in the beginning of the show when everyone's like getting their drinks and like not paying attention to you. Yeah. But I was featuring, so it was sick. And then I just remember being on stage, and obviously you do lights and stuff. You really can't see. You have a spotlight on you. You can see like maybe the front 2 rows or maybe to the side of you because there's no lights there. But I just started laughing, like belly laughing the entire time from this one person. Like everybody was laughing, but this one person like stuck out to me. And after the show, like I said, I was like taking pictures of some people and I was like signing stickers. You saw my bit. I do like the fuck you jerk off. Yeah. So I had stickers with like me giving the middle finger, and like I would give them to people for free advertising. Marketing 101. So I was like doing that, and then I had a tap on my back, and I turned around and it was this guy with another guy, but the one guy was blind. And he's like, hey man, he's like, this is my brother. And I was like, hey, like, nice to meet you. I shook his hand, and then he goes, hey man, I gotta tell you, I don't get out much because I'm handicapped. And he's like, I haven't laughed that long in the longest time. And the blind guy was the guy who was belly laughing the entire time.
That's great.
And just that, I was like, I don't need a paycheck. I don't need to sell out arenas and like that, and like stuff like interaction like that, real connections with people. I'm like, that's like priceless. That was like the craziest thing that ever happened. And I felt so good after that. It was awesome. So I took a picture with the dude, and then he actually sung. And I was like, well, you heard me perform. I'm like, no, I want to hear you perform. And like, he starts singing, and he had like that raspy, like Ray Charles vibe. I'm like, this is what I'm talking about, baby. But dude, yeah, just literally, I know what it feels to hurt, and I know what it feels to, just want other people to feel good. That's the only reason why I did it. It's the only reason why I continued to do it.
Comedy over chemo.
That's it. Comedy over chemo. That's it.
That is wild, dude.
Yeah, man.
So where can people get the book?
They can get it off of Amazon.
Okay.
It's releasing Friday, August 4th. There's going to be Kindle, so it's digital version. There's going to be soft copy and hard copy.
Yep.
So you could choose whatever your reading preference is. Me, I'm an old school guy. I still like a hard copy book. That's just how I am. But I know a lot of people are Kindle people nowadays.
Sure.
So it's coming out, and
that is today for people watching. Like,
yes,
it is.
This is going
Friday,
to come
August
out.
4th.
Hell yeah, it's out today.
available
So go
right
on
now.
Amazon. Boy Meets Anxiety is the title. Once you type it in, you'll be able to see it. Yeah, so it's coming out, man.
That's fantastic. So before we wrap up, we've sold you the book. Everyone's gonna get the book.
Yeah,
we're excited about the book. I just like to kind of go a little deeper on a couple things.
Sure.
So different kind of level. Number one, let's talk about the attire that you wore to today's podcast.
Sure.
We have the shirt, Chris Nee Comedy.
Of course.
Marketing 101. But what's more interesting is the hat.
Yeah.
You got a Stone Cold Steve Austin hat.
My dad.
Tell me.
My not biological, but biological dad.
I didn't know you meant it like that.
Dude, I'm a wrestling nerd, dude. It never.
We should have fucking.
I know. Well, if you follow me on Instagram, on my bachelor party, my prized possession, I have a signed Stone Cold vest.
Yes, I've seen this.
And I bought it out for my bachelor party, and I wore it, and I had the title, and I smashed the beers to make a funny video.
Why Stone Cold specifically?
Specifically, just because he just is the man that everybody can look up to. He's a guy who doesn't like his boss, and he'll just do everything he can to just kick his ass and be like, just fuck you to everybody.
Yeah.
He was drinking beers. He was just the man. He would literally show up, drink beers, stun some people, and just like, all right, later. Best promo.
What was his thing that he said? Another beer. What is that? Do you know it? You must.
It's like a TikTok trend. He
Okay.
was just cutting a promo, I think, on like a Monday Night Raw or something like that. And he was waiting for, I forget who, it might have been like Triple H or The Rock to come out to the ring. And he goes, I'm waiting for you to come out. He's like, I already drank a beer. And whenever he talked, the crowd would go, what?
Yeah.
So then he would say, ooh, sorry. He would say something else, and he'd be like, I drank another beer. And they'd be like, what? And he'd be like, 3 beers. And then he went to like 7 beers, and he goes, and a margarita.
Yeah. That's my favorite.
And everyone's like, yeah. But like, he just kept going. And then like Jerry Lawler, like, oh my God, he's hammered.
I mean, the big Stone Cold moment that everyone thinks of is the truck.
Beer truck.
The beer truck.
You want to hear something that's going to ruin your childhood?
Please.
That only shot out beer for like 2 seconds, and then it was water with food coloring in it.
Nice.
Yeah, so they weren't wasting a lot of beer. I'm sorry, guys.
It's still real to me,
It's
damn
still
it.
me. I literally just found out Undertaker and Kane weren't brothers.
Yeah. All right, so this show, Two Drinks with Terry, I like to do because I feel like you really get to hear someone's real story by the end of the second drink.
Sure.
It's not the first one. It's not no drinks.
Second one.
But by the end of the second one, you really like to. So even if we hadn't known each other previously, I feel like I would understand you. And I think that's an important thing that we all kind of do in this world is try and understand each other.
For sure.
For people who feel like they're misunderstood. I always say, my buddies are the island of misfit toys.
Yeah.
That's who, I always want to talk to, engage with. I want to hear about that kind of stuff. What is kind of your message to our island of misfit toys out there?
You're born to stick out, not stand in. I always hated people who tried to go with the crowd.
Yeah.
Just because people just want that so much nowadays, and it's just like you're trying so hard to be something that you're not when you could be outside the box like us misfits and try to do something cool that you only get one life, man.
Yeah.
You only get one life, and to make an impression or literally do whatever you want to do. If you want to write a book, write that book. You want to do comedy, do comedy. You want to be a director, do that directing. Like, but
Yeah.
people are just like so like, oh, I just want to be cool. I want to, all this. It's like, man, life is too short for that. You gotta do what you gotta do. I always found in my personal life, whenever I did what I wanted to do, that's when good things came in my life. And when I tried to do stuff that wasn't me, nothing good ever happened from it.
Yeah, I'll echo that. In kind of like anything you want to do, you just have to do, and you have to recognize that most people haven't done it. And if they haven't done it, don't take their advice. Don't pay them any mind. Go do the thing. When I was in college, I had a professor, Barbara Bird, and she said, there is no path to directing. It's not like, well, I'll be a PA, then a camera guy, then an assistant director, then a director. That's not how it works. If you want to be a director, you just have to go direct.
You have to do it.
Right away. And it sounds like, that for you, that was a really important thing. Like, go do it.
Just do it.
So go do whatever it is you want to do in this life. Go do it.
Yeah. I remember that show that I was talking about when I was 17 years old. I almost didn't go up on stage. And I'll never forget, my dad said to me, he said, you could either go up there right now and see if this is for you, or we could leave right now and nobody in here will ever know that you're here. He's like, but since we're here, I think you should go up there and see that it's for you. And I took that to heart, and I went up and then I did it. And 10 years later, still doing it. So, and it got better. It always gets better.
All right, man. So the book is called Boy Meets Anxiety.
Yes.
People can get it on Amazon.com.
Yes.
Where else can they find out more about you?
You could find me on my social media, Instagram, CFJN2504. That's where you'll find a lot of info about my book and my stand-up gigs coming up. I also have a Facebook page, Boy Meets Anxiety, Twitter, TikTok, Chris Nee Comedy. That's it.
Well, thank you so much for watching Two Drinks with Terry, where we have two drinks, get to know each other, because do you really know someone if you haven't had two drinks with them?
No.
That's right. So we'll see you next time. Special guest to my special thanks to my guest, Chris Nee. Really appreciate him being here, and we'll see you on the next one.
Young John!